Hi, I'm Dr. Kristen Fox, veterinarian here at DePore Veterinary Hospital, also one of the practice owners, and I am here today to talk about feline allergies, as we do see allergies in your cats and just want to provide a little bit of information. The most common signs and symptoms we see in cats for allergies is typically over-grooming. We always think of itching and scratching, which you definitely can see, but most of the time the way that cats show that they're itchy is that they start over-grooming. And so sometimes what people see at home, even if they don't notice that they're over-grooming and licking themselves a lot, sometimes they'll actually find areas of hair loss or kind of where they've licked almost down to the skin and the skin can be kind of irritated and they might be missing hair there, and that might be a new change. So I would say that's the big thing we see in cats. Allergies can also show up as ear infections, and so if they were really scratching at their ears or you notice debris in their ears, those would be areas that would be an indication that it might be time to get your cat checked out for some underlying allergies. The most common things that cause allergies in cats are similar to what cause them in dogs too. We definitely see more what we call flea allergy dermatitis, especially cats that are going outside that are having more of an exposure to fleas. It can really just take one or two flea bites to trigger a big allergic response. So if there's an underlying flea issue, or even not a flea infestation, but just a exposure to fleas, that can show up as a big allergic response in cats. We definitely do see more food hypersensitivity or food allergies, and then obviously some of the just normal environmental things as well, although I do think that's less likely compared to dogs, but they can be allergic to the indoor-outdoor things, dust, pollens, molds, just like we can as well. So environmental allergies are going to be things that are in your environment. So they're the things that are around you that you might have exposure just by breathing the air around you. It doesn't even mean it has to be a direct contact. It could just be stuff that's in the air. So from an environmental perspective, we think of, the indoor things being molds, dust, and usually those are going to be worse in the winter months as the homes are closed up and windows are closed and air, furnaces are running and things like that. The outdoor things we see, the pollens, the grasses, the trees, those are all things that we see more on an outdoor basis, but can definitely still be in the air. The other thing that's kind of considered under environmental are insects, and especially fleas. So those can be, dogs can bring fleas into the house. So even if you have an indoor only cat, if you have a dog coming in and out, especially if your dog's not on good flea preventative, that definitely is an exposure to fleas to your cat. Those are the big kind of from the environmental parasite things that we worry about. Food allergies are typically more of a hypersensitivity to a protein. And so a lot of times that's something that they're having exposure to by ingesting their food. And so the symptoms can sometimes show up the same or different. And so it's really trying to get to the bottom and maybe doing some diet trials to kind of get to the bottom and narrow down that cause. Okay, so cat allergies are typically treated on kind of two parts. The first part is always managing the symptoms. So if we have an ear infection, if we have skin infection, if a cat's just really uncomfortable because they're really itchy, we want to do our best to be managing those symptoms and getting them feeling better. But then the second part, which is just as important, is trying to really get down to the bottom of what's causing the allergies. Because we do see, I'd say, some more food issues in cats. A lot of times it might be switching a diet and doing a novel protein or a protein source that they've not had before. Definitely doing a single protein food rather than a food that's got 3 or 4 different protein sources. So it's a lot of times a process of elimination and trying different things to just really get to that bottom answer. The other thing obviously is just making sure your cat's on a good flea preventative, just to kind of rule that out, because it doesn't have to be a high flea burden to cause a problem. Sometimes you might not even see a flea, but it's something that if we have a cat that's showing symptoms, we're going to want to make sure we're kind of covering our bases with a good flea preventative as well. So just like any allergy for people, dogs, cats, I'd say it's a lifelong management issue. I do think it can be kind of considered cured if you can get to the bottom of it and do what we can as a preventative. So for instance, for a flea allergy, if we treat the fleas and keep a cat on the flea preventative and we don't ever have to worry about fleas being the problem, you've kind of cured the cat of a flea allergy dermatitis. If it's more of an environmental thing that's going to come up every season, that's not necessarily something you're going to be able to cure, but you will hopefully be able to manage it in a better way to keep your cat comfortable during those things that you can't really control that's happening inside or outside. The focus for dietary is really just typically a single protein, a protein source that they haven't had. So if they've always been eating a chicken-based food or a fish-based food, we might go to something a little more creative to give them something that they haven't had before. We do also have the option for prescription diets, including hydrolyzed protein as another option in terms of another food option as well to consider. Thanks so much for spending some time with me today chatting about cat allergies. If you have any questions or if you feel like your cat might be suffering from some allergies, please feel free to make an appointment and come see us. We're happy to help when we can.